My name is Sabreen Auda. That's spelled Sabreneodeh. And I'm the community legal advocate with CARE Washington. On behalf of the CARE Washington team, I'd like to welcome you all to our office or to live stream. While we're honored to host the Noaa Azure for Apartheid press conference in our space and to be invited to speak at it, I do have to say that any comments that are made by anyone other than a CARE Washington staff member do not represent the CARE Washington's positions or viewpoints necessarily. Our communications director, Katie Walker, was not able to be here today, but please reach out to her via email or cell if you have any follow-up questions. And if you don't have her contact information, please connect with me and I can get you the phone number or her email address after. And I will take it to our first speaker.
Hello everyone, my name is Hussein Nasser. I'm a fired Microsoft worker and an organizer with Noaa Azure for Apartheid, a worker of the group of Microsoft current and former employees who are demanding an end to Microsoft's complicity in the ongoing genocide in Palestine, and also apparently someone who was name dropped in an email to the FBI by Microsoft. So I'm here today to kick off this press conference. We are going to hear from current and former Microsoft workers as well as workers from Google and Amazon as well. As you all saw, there was a series of protests over the last 2 weeks, including 2 encampments in the Morton Palestinian Children's Plaza, formerly known as the East Campus Plaza, as well as in Brad Snicker's office on Tuesday. So I want to kick off by saying that we just learned, like literal minutes before this press conference, that 2 additional workers have also been fired in connection to these protests, who are Nisreen Jaradat and Julius Chan. We will be hearing from Nisreen today. Julius could not make it, but just wanted to give the update that now brings the total fired workers to a total of 4 in connection to the recent protests. So just to start off the program today, I'm going to hand it off to CARE Washington, and then we'll be hearing from the workers.
Can we speak up a little bit for the audio?
Yeah. So the last 2 years have been exceptionally difficult for our community. We have heard from across the state as we meet with folks that there's just incredible devastation felt from our community members as we watch the genocide unfold that's being committed by Israel. Our Palestinian community has been reeling as they have had dozens and for some hundreds of family members killed since the genocide started. And in Washington State, our grief is compounded because not only does our community feel complicit as our tax dollars are paying to kill our families back home, but we also have some of the biggest corporations here, like Microsoft, which employ so many community members who also are complicit and even benefiting off of the murders of our families back home. These corporations, specifically are complicit and are benefiting off of this complicity. Yet through this devastation, we're hearing that our students are being targeted in the schools. They're trying to just raise awareness for what's going on in Palestine, and they're being doxxed, they're being targeted. There's a huge spike in doxing, as we've heard, through workplaces, whether it's anti-Palestinian racism or Islamophobia, for people even just wearing a kafiyeh or wearing a watermelon symbol, right? They're just trying to show their support for the Palestinian people, and they're receiving backlash from their workplaces. We've also seen a chilling effect on our free speech, as this administration and our elected officials have continuously suppressed any pro-Palestinian support. And let me be very clear. People of conscience, whether Palestinian or not, whether Muslim or not, have been sounding the alarm for the last 2 years to try to stop the massacres that we've been seeing. For many of us, it feels that nobody is listening. What we're now seeing is these brave community organizers are taking a stance to say that they can no longer be part of organizations that are complicit in such atrocities. Many of them have tried so many avenues to rectify the incredible harm that is being caused by their employers, but to no avail. I won't speak for them because I know that they'll be sharing their powerful statements here shortly. But what I do want to say is that from conversations I've had with communities since day 1 of this genocide, and from my own personal experiences as a Palestinian born and raised here in Seattle, there is a systemic and intentional failure to stand up for the human rights of the Palestinian people. CARE, alongside our community members, is going to continue to stand on the right side of justice when we see any inhumanity happening in this world. So I'm going to kick it back to you all, and you guys can take it from here.
Just a second, we're setting up the camera. Can you extend the leg? Extend the leg. Can you still speak louder?
Okay, good. All right. Microsoft is in a state of crisis, and it is a crisis of its own making. At every turn, Microsoft has chosen the side of genocide, of apartheid, and of repression, retaliation, and discrimination against its workers. Microsoft continually chooses to continue to provide the technological backbone of Israel's ongoing 22-month-long AI-assisted live broadcast genocide that has already claimed hundreds of thousands of Palestinian lives. Microsoft chooses to power the Israeli military as it commits mass slaughter against Palestinians, mass forced starvation, and ethnic cleansing, despite reports revealing Microsoft's own complicity, Microsoft's own role in powering these crimes, despite repeated appeals and protests by its workers, despite over 2,000 signatures on the No Azure for Apartheid petition by its own workers, and despite over 250 pledges pledging to not provide technical support to tickets that are used by the Israeli military or any Israeli entities that are complicit in these war crimes. This is what had led to our actions over the past 2 weeks. This is why Microsoft is in crisis. It is a crisis of its own doing. Microsoft has always Microsoft's response has always been, ignore us at best and respond with brute force, repression, retaliation, and lies at worst. Less than a year ago, I was in this very building also hosting a press conference talking about how Microsoft fired me for organizing a visual on the Martyred Palestinian Children's Plaza, formerly known as the East Campus Plaza. Microsoft ignored our internal pleas, ignored our emails, ignored our petitions, our Q&A questions, our silent t-shirt protests, and our internal forum postings. Microsoft fired us, repressed us, arrested us, brutalized us, and even called Trump's own FBI against its own workers and named me an Arab Muslim immigrant by name. Microsoft and Brad Smith also lied to mischaracterize and defame our movement and our protests. There are too many lies to go through, but to give just a few specific and easily disprovable examples. Microsoft claimed that we blocked a pedestrian bridge during our encampments. That is categorically false. The bridge was never blocked on the second day of the encampment, and if anything, when it was blocked on the first day, it was Microsoft's own security that set up barricades to block the bridge. Brad Smith claimed that we, quote, stormed the building, vandalized his office, and left listening devices. Again, this is categorically false. It is actually quite sinister and cynical that Microsoft would send its own security and then the police to drag us and violently arrest us, causing some of our phones to fall out of our pockets in the process, and then cynically accuse us of planting listening devices. As Brad himself admits, if someone were to plant listening devices, this is not how they would do it. If anything, we would like our phones back, please. Thank you very much. We are completely nonviolent. Our protests were nonviolent. Our sit-in was nonviolent. The encampment was nonviolent. The real violence is the violence that Microsoft is enabling against our people in Palestine. And the arrest and the violence that ensued on Microsoft campus is Microsoft's own doing. And we hold Microsoft security and the police entirely responsible for the uncalled for and unnecessary violence, which we will hear stories of today. Microsoft, since you love to release footage, please release the footage of us blocking the bridge if you claim that we did. Release the footage. While you're at it, also release the footage of the violent arrests instead of asking the police to take down these pictures from their Twitter. Release the footage of the officer shooting Ahmed 7 times in the back with a pepper ball gun in point-blank range. If you don't do it, don't worry, we will release the footage. Microsoft also tried to drive a wedge between us as workers and our community members, seeking to discredit the fact that we are a worker-led campaign. We are today centering the voices of the workers and the former workers of Microsoft, not because they are more valuable, but because we are a worker-led campaign. Microsoft smears sought to minimize and delegitimize the role of multiple brave current workers who chose to visibly join us in the Liberated Zone encampment and the sit-in at Brad's office, putting their employment and their bodies on the line. they sought to delegitimize the over 2,000 employees who have signed our petition, the over 200 workers who have signed our pledge. But ultimately, we are proud to be joined by community members with no affiliation to Microsoft. If anything, it is a testament to Microsoft's own complicity. It is a testament to their response to our organizing. It is a testament to how egregious and enraging their actions are, that people with no affiliation to Microsoft feel so enraged that they feel called upon to join our campaign and our organizing to protest a company in their backyard that is powering the Holocaust of our time. Microsoft uses brute force with us, but when it is one of their own customers that is committing literally the crime of all crimes, they are quick to give them the benefit of the doubt. They are quick to give them multiple chances for investigations, even after the first one was proven false. But more importantly, we reject the premise that Microsoft's call to action should be to investigate. At this point, the situation in Palestine and Microsoft's complicity in the war crimes and the genocide is way too urgent for investigations. There is no time left to investigate. There is no time to listen to the war criminals justifying their crimes. Now is the time to immediately end all contracts with the Israeli military, the Israeli government, and any Israeli entities that are complicit in the genocide. But we know that at the end of the day, Microsoft will respond to our organizing the way they always do, with brute force, with repression, with retaliation, and with violence. We know that they will try to do the same this time, and we just witnessed today them again firing 2 of their workers for their nonviolent organizing. But we also know that this time, like before, they will fail. Every time, we have come back stronger, more organized, more resilient, and more adaptive to Microsoft tactics. To Microsoft, to Satya Nadella, to Brad Smith, to all Microsoft executives, here's a piece of advice. Stop wasting your time. Stop wasting your resources. Your repression and your retaliation will not stop our campaign, our organizing, or our escalations. We will continue to show up announced and unannounced. You won't know when and how we will be there. But our advice to you is clear. The only way to stop our protest is to meet our demands. Cut ties with genocide, cut ties with the Israeli military, pay reparations to the Palestinian people, publicly call for an end to the genocide and forced starvation, and end the discrimination and the repression against your Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, and pro-Palestinian employees. We promise you, this will not be the end. We promise you, we will keep the fight and we will keep our campaign until our demands are met and until Palestine is free. Your choice now is very clear. You've tried everything except listening to us. So now is the time to come to the table. We are reachable by email at negotiations@noazureforapartheid.com, or simply just give us a call. You should already have my phone number, but if you don't, you could always ask the FBI for it. Long live the liberated zone, free Palestine, no Azure for Apartheid.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Haddle, and I am a Microsoft worker who was arrested twice in the past several days for participating in protests at my office. When I joined this company as a software engineer 5 years ago, I never expected that my employer would have me literally dragged out of my own workplace for taking a stand for ethics and human rights. Microsoft is attempting to paint protesters in a negative light in order to distract from the fact that it is Microsoft itself, not the protesters, that are the perpetrators of mass violence and crimes against humanity. No amount of demonizing protesters will change the reality that Microsoft executives chose to drag this company, its workers, and our communities into forming the backbone of genocide and mass murder. If those leaders made a simple choice, and the only ethical choice, to stop abetting mass murder, none of us would have to be here today. Instead, Microsoft has not only continued up until this very second to continue facilitating that mass murder, they've also tried to tell us that they are doing so while upholding so-called human rights commitments. I want to reiterate that there is no ethical way to uphold human rights commitments while providing services to the entity that is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. It's important to highlight the very blatant lies that Microsoft is telling as they attempt to whitewash their image. In the press conference that Brad Smith held in his office after our sit-in, Brad claims that the company has read our petitions and engaged in dialogue with employees about it. On May 15th of this year, I sent a petition with over 2,000 worker signatures demanding that Microsoft cut ties with the Israeli military. This email was sent to every single Microsoft executive along with many other recipients. I never received a response of any kind to that petition, not an email reply, not an invitation to a meeting, not a conversation with any leadership. Instead, Microsoft posted a public blog post which demonstrated that their priorities are whitewashing their public image rather than engaging with any employee concerns. This blog post talked about a sham investigation that they initiated where they decided that they had found themselves not guilty of any wrongdoing. That investigation was quickly proven false by reporting by The Guardian and Plus 972 magazine, and they were forced to initiate a second investigation after being caught in the blatant lie. Despite the stakes and despite their obvious falsehoods, they continue to avoid taking the barest minimum of measures to mitigate harm by cutting off the Israeli military. The petition that I'm describing here was sent after countless previous attempts over the past several months to go through every so-called proper channel that exists within the company to raise concerns. Reports, questions, emails, and communications of every kind were deleted or ignored, investigations were closed, and follow-ups were dropped. Microsoft points to these proper channels in order to misdirect workers' energy and attention, claiming to engage in dialogue as an excuse to do absolutely nothing. After many ignored invitations to have a dialogue and negotiate, we decided to sit in Brad's office until he agreed to meet with us. Microsoft condemns actions like the sit-in because they don't want any actions that will actually make an impact. They have tried to direct workers to channels that they can control and subsequently suppress so that leadership can continue to line their pockets off of extreme violence and murder. As is clear from the protests of the last week, despite repression and retaliation, huge numbers of workers and community members support this movement. People who care about me have expressed a lot of concern throughout my time organizing. They tell me that I should be careful, that I should be more quiet, and that I should take steps to make sure that nothing happens to me. But I will not exchange my silence and complicity for the promise of future comfort and privilege. As Israel continues to cross every line in their campaign of extermination, we all have a moral responsibility to do everything we can to stop the genocide machine. Microsoft, you can arrest me, drag me off your campus, suspend me, arrest me again, and drag me out of your office again, and then fire me. But that will not deter me, and that will not deter all of the people around the world who are committed to the full liberation of Palestine. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Ricky Fameli and I'm an organizer with Noaa for Apartheid. I've been a software engineer for the past 2 years at Microsoft working in Azure storage. As you may have likely heard, I was fired yesterday morning through a voicemail from Microsoft. I sat in Brad Smith's office with the others here because I recognized the emergency that is happening in regards to Microsoft's complicity in this genocide, and I realized long ago that Microsoft will not do anything to address it without unrelenting pressure from both the public and from its own workers. I've sat through so many internal employee meetings in which questions about Israel's deep connections to Microsoft have been blocked from being brought up or given non-answers. Microsoft has dragged its feet at every opportunity to hold the Israeli military accountable, but has acted with incredible haste in repressing worker sentiment about the issue of Palestine. It is completely insane to me that the Israeli Intelligence Corps, Unit 8200, have been able to continue operating on Azure without restriction, even after the Art Guardian reported on the fact that they have stored every single phone call from within Palestine on Azure Storage Platform in the past few years. I worked in Azure Storage. It is untenable to me that I had worked so hard on building out the Azure storage space and that ultimately that labor was benefiting the mass surveillance and targeting of a people experiencing the extreme horrors of genocide and forced starvation. I cannot overstate that our movement is a movement for all people of conscience. I am not Palestinian, I am not Arab. I am here because I share fundamental humanity with the people of Palestine, and I feel the echoes of their tremendous grief and rage. I remember hearing of the martyr Shaban al-Dulu, who was burned alive in the bombing of Al-Aqsa Hospital. He was a young adult software engineer just like me, and I felt that if I had been born in Palestine, his fate could have been mine as well. We cannot allow Microsoft to continue to delay the justice that is necessary for the people being massacred and starved in Palestine. This is why I am here and why we as a movement continue to fight and risk our livelihoods to force Microsoft to do the right thing. Free Palestine.
Hi everybody, my name is Nisreen Jaradat, that's Nisreen, then Jaradat. I am an organizer with No Azure for Apartheid, and as of this morning, a former Microsoft worker. Microsoft's strategy when it comes to Palestinian advocacy, it's not to engage in dialogue, it's to suppress, repress, intimidate, and retaliate. Microsoft workers have tried to make their voices heard regarding concerns on how our technology was being used by the Israeli military for literally years. In 2021, I signed a petition calling for a human rights review of Microsoft contracts with the Israeli military. Microsoft's response to that petition came a few months later, when Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, met with the leader of Unit 8200, the spy agency of the Israeli military. In this meeting, Satya approved the mass theft and storage of all Palestinian communications in only 10 minutes in what he described as an incredibly powerful brand moment. While Brad Smith claims that Microsoft reads our petitions, Microsoft actually took down our No Azure for Apartheid internal petition site. On Tuesday, on our way to deliver the petition signatures to the executive building's door, Microsoft security specifically targeted protesters carrying the scroll of petition signatures and tore that scroll. This violent response to a paper with the names of workers who are calling for an end to an abetment to genocide is a reflection of what Microsoft truly thinks of its workers' opinions. While Microsoft insisted that we should follow the proper channels instead of protesting, last May, Microsoft simultaneously banned the use of the words Palestine, Gaza, genocide, and apartheid from all email communications in a brazen, self-described attempt to silence email-related protest, effectively preventing us from following those channels. Emails containing those words would either not be delivered, or they would be delivered after hours of delay, after what was presumably a manual review with no transparency on who was reading emails besides the intended recipients. In response, I engaged with Microsoft leadership and Microsoft Legal to flag this as an employee listening crisis and its potential illegality in the European Union. In an exchange visible to thousands of workers, a Microsoft CVP, instead of taking me seriously, tried to spar with me over the English definition of the word ban, while simultaneously admitting to how this censorship was targeted. Seeing no other option, I proved exactly how pointlessly racist such a ban was by trivially bypassing the censorship and doing exactly what Microsoft leadership was afraid of, sending a mass email in protest of their silencing of Palestinian advocacy and complicity in genocide. Very shortly after my email protest, Microsoft lifted the blanket ban on the name of my homeland, Palestine. Let me repeat that. Microsoft did not respond when I complied with their so-called appropriate channels. They only responded when I escalated. Brad Smith claimed on Tuesday that those who supposedly violate email policies are not fired, but are sat down and conversed with. This is a lie. 3 hours after I sent my mass email, I was locked out of my work account with no explanation or prior warning. For the next 5 days, I reached out from my personal email and personal social media accounts repeatedly to my manager and Microsoft HR asking for any update. until I was eventually informed of my suspension in a phone call lasting less than 3 minutes. For the next 3 weeks, despite multiple attempts from my side to request updates, Microsoft refused to provide me any information on the status of my employment, the official reason for my suspension, or how long being in limbo would last. Throughout the suspension, I continued to be harassed by Microsoft workers to my personal accounts. Much of this harassment came from Microsoft corporate emails, which I reported to Microsoft HR. HR did eventually get back to me and told me they could offer me support in this period, then provided me with an Israeli 972 area code phone number for the company's well-being partner, instead of a phone number for the company's well-being partner for my location. When I wrote back to confirm the phone number for my location, I was instead provided the public suicide hotline. Providing an incorrect Israeli-centered call while suspending me for Palestinian advocacy and following up with a suicide hotline seems too erogenous to be an honest mistake. After 6 weeks, Microsoft lifted my suspension and told me that I would be financially sanctioned for my advocacy. In my mass protest email, I said, there are no proper channels at Microsoft to express your concerns, disagreements, or even questions about how Microsoft is using your labor to kill Palestinian babies. Microsoft continues to prove this statement to be true. Whether it's a team status saying Free Palestine or an encampment, Microsoft will respond the same way, with erasure, with silencing, with intimidation, with suppression, and even violence. Make no mistake, firing me will not deter me. I will continue to speak out against Microsoft complicity and against the genocide of my people. Thank you. Free Palestine.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm a Microsoft worker who was present at the rally on Tuesday, and I'm preserving my anonymity for fear of retaliation from my employer. I am also a Jew, which I do not mention as any authority to speak, but only to denounce what is being done in my name. I want to briefly talk about how Microsoft's behavior in the past weeks, months, and years have been really no surprise to many of us. Firstly, I truly believe that without public pressure, there would be no war crime Israel could commit that would be heinous enough for them to cut ties. And it's no coincidence that American corporate human rights policies seem to only apply to official US enemies. For example, after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Microsoft almost immediately divested from them, banning sales and closing their corporate offices in that country. Israel, who has committed war crimes an order of magnitude larger than Russia, has faced no consequences. Why? Because Microsoft's human rights policy is not designed to apply to friends of the United States, but rather to better align the company with US foreign policy and gain favor for lucrative government military contracts. Secondly, it's clear that many executives have personal sympathies with Israel and believe Zionism to be a righteous ideology, and they've said it as much in various public meetings. How can we trust any investigation when those who ordered it already believe Israel is the moral party in this genocide? It is Microsoft's legal obligation to proactively ensure that their services are not being used for war crimes and genocide. And yet, until we've spoken up, or various reports were published in the media, Microsoft had done nothing. And lastly, as a Jew, I have personally been dismayed that a vocal group of Islamophobic, anti-Palestinian, and racist Jews have been able to weaponize claims of anti-Semitism in order to suppress speech and support Microsoft in its intransigence. Any Jews who don't support Israeli genocide and apartheid at Microsoft are crowded out by the loudest, most bigoted voices. This gives the impression of a unified Jewish voice that Microsoft can use to bolster its suppression of workers. Personally, I find claims of anti-Semitism of this movement ridiculous, and this is especially coming from people who are scared of seeing even a Palestinian flag on campus or a watermelon pin. All of this combines to all but ensure that Microsoft will obfuscate, delay, and do everything they can to avoid accountability. And this is why we must speak out. Microsoft wishes this would all just go away so they can continue profiting from genocide quietly. And so we have been loud, and we must be loud, until Microsoft listens and meets our demands. Thank you.
I would like to show you what I was talking about earlier when I said that Microsoft Store, our scroll of petition signatures. This is, thank you. These are the 2,000 signatures of Microsoft workers who want us to cut ties. All of these 2,000. And you can see how Microsoft security tore it as they were trying to prevent us from reaching the executive building and delivering these petition signatures. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Lopez. It's Joelopez, and I'm a former Microsoft worker who was fired immediately after speaking out against the company's role in Israel's genocide in Palestine during this year's Microsoft Build conference. Microsoft has left me no choice but to take direct action as they continue to ignore our voices when we try to use the so-called proper channels. Before I was fired, I got many messages of support from Palestinian and non-Palestinian coworkers, but Microsoft responded only with firing me and silence. They have attempted to silence myself and others by firing us, brutalizing us via police force, and spreading a false narrative about us in the media that we are violent or aggressive. I was tackled and apprehended by 4 officers as I attempted to leave last week's encampment. I chose to return to campus and take part in Tuesday's action, partially because I want to send a message to Microsoft and all the workers who are paying attention that we are not scared. Their attempts to silence our voices are in vain, and we will continue to return until our demands are met. We have the truth on our side, and people of conscience around the world are continuing to become aware of Microsoft's complicity. Every minute they delay action and continue to support Israel's campaign to destroy the Palestinian people, their image will continue to be irreparably tarnished, placing Microsoft workers and shareholders at higher and higher risk of legal and financial repercussions. At its core, this is an issue of human rights. Excuse the crude analogy, but if you're selling kitchen knives and you found out that one of your customers was going around and stabbing people with your product, would you continue to sell to that individual? We are simply demanding that Microsoft uphold its own human rights standards and abide by international law. I'm beyond grateful to this campaign for providing me with the valuable opportunity to live my truth and to play a small part in the fight for freedom of all people around the world. Microsoft has made it clear that they are okay with lying to their workers and customers, using our labor to support mass killing, starvation, and displacement. It is our duty as tech workers to let them know that this is unacceptable. Palestine is almost free, and Palestine will free us all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shane Anderson. For the reporters, my name is spelled Cheyne. And I am a former Google worker and an organizer with No Tech for Apartheid, which is a group similar to No Azure for Apartheid that was started by Google and Amazon workers in 2021. Google workers, including myself, did a similar protest last year at multiple Google offices. This is the second time I have been arrested for sitting in a tech executive's office. In response to that, Google arrested me and 8 other Google workers and fired a total of 50 workers for daring to speak out about the company's complicity. I want to affirm the points other folks have made about the ineffectiveness of proper channels. While I was at Google, I personally did what I was supposed to do. I escalated my concerns to my manager and to my skip manager, and I followed the advice that both of them gave me consistently to reach out to our SVP, who had a reputation for responding to engineers like myself. Even though I had a group of more than 10 people who reached out, he never got back to any of us. That was just one thing that I did personally, but workers have been trying through every possible channel, emails, Q&As, filing formal concerns, contacting Google's human rights teams, etc. for years and have been consistently dismissed and ignored, and our concerns, when acknowledged at all, have been downplayed to the point of nothing. We are here today because these companies have willfully ignored worker voices. In addition to having worked at Google, I have also worked at Microsoft. I am indeed a former Microsoft worker, and I have also worked at Amazon. All three of these companies were named in a report given to the United Nations Human Rights Council by Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestine territories. Workers like us are doing more than the likes of Brad Smith to hold these companies accountable to human rights standards. Thomas Kurian, CEO of Google Cloud, signed onto Project Nimbus, a contract with the Israeli government and military, despite having been warned by Google's own lawyers and hired consultants about the human rights implications. Alexandria Weldon, Google's global head of human rights, didn't so much as mention Nimbus or any of Google's work with the Israeli military when inquired by the UN Human Rights Council last summer, despite commenting on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Kent Walker, chief legal officer at Google, has on multiple occasions censored documents written by workers about Project Nimbus. And this is not just the opinion of the UN Special Rapporteur or the workers here today. Many groups have called out the genocide and the human rights violations, including the Palestinian organization Badil, groups based in Israel such as Bet Selem and Hamla, groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, just to name a few. I have zero trust whatsoever in an investigation initiated and reported by Microsoft itself. I feel absolutely certain that this is simply a tactic to stall and avoid accountability. And at the same time, our government, the American government, which should be doing the work to hold these corporations accountable, has instead been supplying weapons and other military aid to Israel and vetoing UN ceasefire resolutions. All these corporations also do business with DHS and ICE as they are kidnapping people off the streets without due process. And when corporations and governments alike are willfully perpetuating atrocities both abroad and domestically, the only option left is for workers to stand up and take action. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Marhaba. My name is Ahmed, Ahmed. I'm a Palestinian tech worker and community supporter of No Azure for Apartheid. I'm also one of the 7 people who sat in at the office of Microsoft's president and vice chair, Brad Smith, on Tuesday. We are here because lawful avenues have been exhausted. We are here because our humanity has been diminished. We are here to state unequivocally that Microsoft is complicit in a genocide, and we will no longer be silent. There has been an attempt to dismiss us, to paint us as outsiders, as random people who simply occupied a space. This is false, and it is a deliberate strategy to ignore our message. 6 of my comrades are current and former Microsoft employees. They are the very employees Microsoft claims to trust. They tried the lawful internal channels. They provided feedback. They were shunned and dismissed. I'm here as a member of the broader tech community that Microsoft claims to serve. We are not random. We are your workforce, your customers, and your conscience. Our presence in that office was not an invasion, it was an intervention. It was an act of moral necessity by the very people Microsoft's policies impact. When a company refuses to listen to its own employees, the community must speak louder. And I need you to understand what happens when we speak louder. The week before the sit-in, I learned firsthand the price of this protest. I was shot by the police 7 times with a pepper ball gun at point-blank range in my back while I posed no threat. I was bleeding in the police van and in the holding cell, and I am here today managing these wounds. Let me be clear, Microsoft called the police on us. Microsoft made the choice to respond to our demand for humanity with brutal violence. This company is willing to let its own employees and community members be brutalized for the crime of overstepping, for the crime of talking about Palestine and Gaza. Yesterday, Brad Smith spoke about trust and open dialogue, but trust is not built by ignoring your employees until they are forced to get arrested to be heard. Trust is shattered when you call the police on them and they are shot. Dialogue is not meaningful when it only happens on your terms, behind closed doors, and leads to no action but more violence. Mr. Smith says Microsoft is not a government, but it is powerful enough to partner with one that is committing a genocide. It is powerful enough to summon the violent force of a state against its own people. He speaks of lawful expression, while Microsoft's technology is used to unlawfully erase my people and my identity, even on Microsoft's own internal networks, where any of the words Palestine, Gaza, or genocide is silenced. His defense? That Microsoft provides cybersecurity for Israel. In what world does defending a state from cyber threats justify enabling a genocide against my people? Providing cybersecurity to a state committing war crimes makes you a shield for those crimes. Microsoft is not a neutral tech company, it is a participant. This is confirmed by the international law. A UN report by the Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese clearly states that companies like Microsoft are complicit in the genocide, and the executives that abet it are subject to criminal charges like Brad and Satya. This is not just a moral failing, but also a legal one. We have a responsibility to end this complicity, all of us. The workers who build the tech and the communities that use it. Where the state and the corporation fail, we must act. Microsoft has a choice. It can continue to dismiss its employees and the community as random protesters, to have us brutalized and arrested, or it can finally listen to the people it claims to value, end the contracts that power the genocide in Gaza, and stand on the right side of history. We have agency. We will use it. Our sit-in was an act of moral necessity. We will not stop until Microsoft ends its complicity with the Zionist entity and our beautiful Palestine is free. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Vanya. That's V-A-N. That's V-A-N-I-Y-A. Last name is A-G-R-A-W-A-L. My name is Vanya Agarwal. I am a former Microsoft engineer, and I was terminated in April of this year in retaliation to my protest in which I disrupted Bill Gates, Satya Nadella, and Steve Ballmer at Microsoft's 50th anniversary keynote event. And just this week, I was arrested twice for protesting on Microsoft campus. Following my protest and mass resignation email in April, Microsoft began censoring my full name in internal company emails, along with the words Palestine and Gaza. Like most, I joined Microsoft believing in its mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. I believed in its commitment to respecting and promoting human rights. I believed that Microsoft was dedicated to philanthropy, promoting fundamental rights around the world. However, after October 7th, I soon learned how Microsoft's Azure cloud offerings and AI developments undeniably form the technological backbone of Israel's automated apartheid and genocide systems. And I fell into guilt, grief, and depression, realizing that my labor was powering the very evil I swore to live every day to fight. For those who have missed the many reports published in the past 2 years, Microsoft has constantly made the active choice to be part of the economy of apartheid since 1991. With its technologies embedded across the Israeli military, prison system, police, universities, and schools, including in illegally occupied settlements. As it stands today, Microsoft technology powers Israel's mass surveillance weapons that collects and store recordings of millions of mobile phone calls and texts made each day by Palestinians. And every hour, the Microsoft-powered mass surveillance weapon is used to blackmail Palestinians, place them in detention, and even justify their killing after the fact. Every day for the past 22 months, the Microsoft-powered mass surveillance weapon has been used to facilitate the bombardment and massacre of Palestinians in Gaza. We are reminded of every massacre every day, as a state of famine has been declared for the entire population of Gaza, with 470,000 Gazans now experiencing catastrophic food insecurity and starvation. My story of coming to terms with working for the military machine is not a new story. This is a story we've been seeing and we've heard today over the past 2 years, as more and more employees connect with us and our campaign out of frustration, grief, and anger, feeling like they've been tricked into working for a digital weapons manufacturer powering a genocide. For years, employees have constantly brought their concerns over Microsoft's complicity in Israel's genocide to the attention of leadership and executives. And every time, Microsoft has chosen to ignore, silence, suppress, dox, intimidate, and retaliate against those who speak out. We've seen this in employee firings, targeted layoffs, performance and rewards impacts, email censorship, and so much more. By refusing to answer to its workers' questions and calls, Microsoft has forced its own employees to escalate in order to simply be heard. This week, we witnessed Microsoft's most aggressive and violent retaliation yet. They didn't even hesitate to brutalize, injure, and arrest their own employees for asking for a dialogue. Despite this escalation in Microsoft's response, the movement only continues to grow. Each day Microsoft continues to ignore its employees, the movement grows. Every time Microsoft fires another worker for speaking out, the movement grows. Every time Microsoft censors our emails, puts out an empty statement, and drags its feet in an internal investigation, the movement grows. And the movement will continue to grow. As we demonstrated these past 2 weeks, we will not be deterred by Microsoft's violence. We will not be silenced by their repression. In fact, we will only get louder, larger, and stronger. We, as Microsoft workers, former workers, and other tech workers, we are here to confront Microsoft's active role in powering 22 months of genocide in Palestine. And we will continue to answer Gaza's call to action to mobilize, confront, and escalate to force an end to this genocide powered by Microsoft technology. We will choose time and time again to put our employment, immigration statuses, livelihoods, and bodies on the line to carry forward the torch of the Intifada until every single inch of Palestine is liberated. To our people in Gaza and all over Palestine, we see you, we hear you, we grieve with you, we rage for you, and we stand in complete and unconditional solidarity with you against the ongoing Israeli genocidal campaign of starvation, bombardment, and displacement. You've given us a moral compass and shown us courage at a time when it is very hard to find it in this world. We are here answering your call to force an end to this ongoing genocide, to call for your rights to food, water, shelter, healthcare, education, self-determination, and justice that you have been illegally and indefensibly denied for the past 22 months and 77 years. To fellow Microsoft and other tech workers, we are the ones who are building the technology that keep these companies running. Our executives have forced us to become accessories to their complicity in genocide. Our leaders lied to our faces, claimed they did no harm, and exploited our labor to massacre children. Our executives shook hands with war criminals, knowingly provided technology to power the world's most well-documented first AI-assisted genocide, and then they continue to gaslight us about it. We must reject business as usual while these executives and companies continue to line their pockets with blood money. Gaza has called for us to take action, and it's time for everybody, all workers everywhere, to answer this call. Join us in demanding that your workplaces cut ties and divest from all genocidal partnerships. Mobilize your fellow workers and community members to escalate by disrupting business as usual, organizing strikes, and starting protests wherever you are. Reject doing work that contributes to genocide and other crimes against humanity in Palestine. And before you ask the cost of speaking up, ask about the cost of not speaking up. To our so-called leaders, Satya Nadella, Brad Smith, Teresa Hudson, Mustafa Suleiman, Jay Parikh, Scott Guthrie, all Microsoft executives, the blood of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians is on your hands. It's far overdue to answer the calls of over 2,000 of your workers, tens of thousands of people of conscience, and ultimately millions of Palestinians to terminate your role in the economy of genocide. Cut ties with Israel, call for an end to the genocide and forced starvation, pay reparations to Palestinians, and end the discrimination against your Palestinian, Arab, Muslim, and pro-Palestinian workers. When you're ready to divest, we're ready to talk. Until then, our actions will continue as long as Microsoft is invested in the economy of occupation and genocide. We will make it costly to continue business with the Zionist regime. We will show up, escalate, confront, and disrupt in every place, every moment, announced or not. Our movement will not stop. We will not rest. We will continue to apply pressure. We will continue to escalate. No PR statement will absolve you, and no sham investigation will save you in front of the ICC for your role in the commission of international crimes. May the seeds of revolution we plant bring us a liberated Palestine within our lifetime. Join the worker intifada. Long live the liberated zone. Glory to all of the martyrs, and free Palestine.
That is all the speakers today, so we're happy to take any questions. And I'll ask all the speakers if you want to come to the front so you can all answer questions. But yeah, happy to take any questions if people have them. Yeah, my name is Hossam, Hossam, Nasser, Nasr.
I got one. Have you heard from Microsoft officially in any capacity, and have you guys in the last week or two, I guess firings accepted, any official contact?
Beyond people being fired and put on suspensions and that sort of thing, no. We've repeatedly asked again for Microsoft to come to the negotiating table. We've offered multiple opportunities for conversation, and they have completely ignored that.
If I could just add on to that, on the first day of our encampments, I was standing at the negotiating table, and a director of Microsoft Security did come up to me and tell me to leave. And I told him I'm an employee and I can be here. And I told him we have some demands, we would like to have a discussion. And he refused to relay that information and eventually walked away. That was the extent of any communication that I had as a worker, or a current worker at that time, until I was fired this morning.
For those of you that have been fired, what comes next? And those that it has been a couple of months, what have you been doing? Yeah, that's a lot of you.
I can start. I think probably I will be getting my ducks in a row in terms of getting my health insurance and stuff covered now that I'm not, I don't have employee health insurance. And then I think just looking for whatever next kind of job opportunities that actually feel compelling to me.
Yeah, sure. I'm hoping for a little while to be a full-time organizer against Microsoft complicity, while also starting the job search.
I continue to organize with Genocide for Apartheid in my time of work. I did briefly work for Meta, so I actually worked for 4 big tech companies for 6 months. And now I am looking to see if I can transition